All right, here we are back at the Rope-a-Dope Room for another 21 Soul episode, and we have a special guest. It's Kat Vokes. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, you came down from New York?
That's right.
See, you were supposed to throw them.
I forgot.
Do you remember when we first met?
Yeah, I remember it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, it was a couple of weeks ago, and you said hi, and I was like, hey, it's so great to see you again. And you're like, we have never met.
Right, yeah.
You were right.
It just felt like an old connection.
Because we had done Zoom conferencing or Skype conferencing or something.
Right,
so
exactly.
I was like, well, I know you. I knew you.
Yeah.
But yeah, there it is. So your record, Clockwork. I haven't asked you yet about the title.
Oh yeah.
Please explain.
Well, basically the record is 9 different little stories that all feature time in some way or another.
Okay.
So that's where the title came from. It's like
Shouldn't
the
there
main
be 12?
theme. Oh, it killed me that I didn't have 12 tracks. I was like, I can't release it without 12. But
I have been trying, and we have a studio audience tonight, by the way, from Hawaii. Welcome. I've been trying to define, and I know, here at Rope-a-Dope, we always say genre is dead, and yet we still try to define what the music is.
Right.
And I can't.
I
need you to
either.
break down how you got to this place.
Yeah.
So you were trained in classical music?
Yeah, so I played classical piano for almost 12 years. 3 of my grandparents were professional concert pianists, and my other...
In New York?
No, most of my family's from Europe, actually.
Okay.
So abroad. But so they brought a lot of the classical tradition into the household. And then for my undergraduate degree, I studied opera. So that was like another kind of deeper immersion in the classical world. Yeah.
Okay.
Not anymore.
It's making more sense now. Now I'm understanding a little better.
But then after I graduated, I didn't really want to pursue opera professionally. So I was like, where do I want to transfer vocally? And I was really drawn to jazz. So that's also where a lot of like the jazz tones come into the album, is that shift. So I would say like the classical world, the classical harmonic world, like plays a large role in the writing on the album. But like the improvisation, a lot of what I'm doing vocally, and it's just some of the overall vibe comes more from jazz.
There's some moments where the band just goes off.
Yeah, they're like
just
shredding.
Let loose.
Yeah, I know.
like just moving down the tracks, kind of a vibe. Like,
Yeah.
And contrasting that groove with your vocal.
Yeah.
And that's the moment of confusion.
Oh,
Because your
interesting.
brain is trying to go, okay, I get it. I love her voice. These are intricate compositions, and then all of a sudden we're just cooking.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Were you
Well,
like,
I mean,
this is the way we're gonna do it? Did you compose it, or are you just like, now here's a spot where?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, the thing is the band that I have is such a good band that I want them to be able to like have their own voices at times and just like run away and do what they do best without me having to dictate everything. So
let's shout them out. Let's tell me about this band.
yeah, so it features Jeff Miles on guitar,
Okay.
Nitsan Gabrielli on piano, who's present but not visible.
Studio audience. He is visible, but not to you.
But not to you. Noah Garabedian on bass and Ronan Itzik on drums.
And how did you all come together? How did you pick this band?
Well, it was just basically the jazz world, and who I thought
okay.
could transition from that I knew from the jazz world to a more experimental kind of rock-based band.
Okay. So, but you live in New York City. Were you born and raised there?
I'm from Chicago originally.
From Chicago. Okay.
Yeah.
How long have you been in New York?
Almost 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have world-class musicians. You can't go out to get a coffee in New York City or Brooklyn.
Without meeting one of them.
Without bumping
Yeah, I know.
into a world-class musician.
That's right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So for people that aren't in New York, how does that scene happen? How do people get to know each other, and how do you pick them? Like, you meet somewhere?
Yeah, well, of course, like
is
jam
there like
sessions.
a Craigslist for
I think the Craigslist for musicians would be jam sessions.
Okay.
So there are like tons of jam sessions all over Manhattan and all over Brooklyn, and that's a big part of the jazz culture. But then it's also like a lot of the musicians on this album were kind of word of mouth recommendations. Like I talked to one musician, I was like, who do you think would be an awesome guitarist for this vibe? And it's like, oh, you should check out these people. So like that kind of.
Yeah, so I mean, everybody comes. It's so funny. When I interview people, they always find their way to New York.
Yeah.
One way or another. It's like, it's the mecca of sort of music networking, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like the
place.
big hub. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, I'm out of questions. What else you got?
That's it.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning
Thank you so
in,
much.
Kat Vokes. So the composition process. So let's elaborate on that a little bit more.
Okay.
You write all these songs, and then everybody's got charts.
Correct. Actually, I've gotten a lot better at charts now too because I use software. Whereas before it was like handwritten scrabbles, and I would give it to them, and I'd be like, "Please make music out of this."
I'm picturing a saxophone player just being like,
Yeah.
this
Like
going like
crunkling
that.
it
It's
up.
easier now.
Yeah. Yeah. Now it's like very clean.
And so it all gets played as that. I mean, or where does the improvisation come in?
No, I would say that's more the framework. So like I always write the melody, the harmony, the lyrics, and have an idea of the form of the song, like the overall structure that I have in mind. But then also for a lot of the tunes, I just workshop it with the band. So someone might say like, it would be really cool if we vamped out on the ending a little bit more. Why don't we try it that way?
In studio and also live. Right?
Yeah.
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 Did you play a lot of these songs live before
Yeah.
you recorded them?
Yeah, almost all of them.
Okay.
Just to kind of workshop them that way, instead of just. Although I did feel, because you never hear things as well, like off of a phone recording or a live recording, you don't hear the music as well. So after we recorded it, it was the first time that I was like, oh, this is actually in a very objective way, or slightly enhanced, let's say, like what it sounds like.
You've just found an absolute value for recorded music for all time. So I appreciate that. The question these days is what is the value of recorded music anymore?
Oh, is that the question?
I see that.
Oh,
yeah. So my next question, which I was trying to summon but wasn't getting there, is you're writing this, and you are also a performer, right? So you're singing. When you're in that process of creating the music, either live or in the studio, probably more live. When it's your time to sing, are you losing sight? Are you just completely lost in the vocal, and losing sight of the composition while that's happening?
You know what? I actually feel like it's the opposite. And moving forward in rehearsals and in general, I want to be able to focus more on what I need as a performer, because so much of my attention when we're rehearsing is like, what does the band need to feel comfortable? Which isn't to say that I need to babysit them or what. They're all highly capable, but I'm like, what? Because I know the songs already.
You're a manager.
Yeah, so I'm like, what do we need to do again for everyone to get comfortable? And sometimes I forget, actually, I wanted to practice that piano intro that I'm playing, or whatever it is. But then, when I'm actually performing live, it's just about the performance, and I'm not paying as much attention
Right.
to the other
But everything's
stuff.
working.
But it's
So,
hopefully all working. Yeah.
There you go. Do you have a favorite on here?
No, I don't think I have a favorite. I have.
That's like asking a parent, which one of your
Which
kids
child?
is their
You're not
favorite.
supposed to have one.
You can't do that. Yeah, everybody has one.
Right. I guess. I'm not
But
sure
nobody
that
wants
I
to
do.
say it.
I think different songs have different strengths. I like Willow. I feel like it's a very emotional song for me. I remember what I felt when I was writing it. I remember where I was.
It's the first song that kind of grabs you.
The first song doesn't grab you.
The first song sets the stage, so you're processing what is this I'm listening to.
Right.
I mean, your music is so unique. This is not something that people are just hearing every day.
Totally.
You know? So you're gonna take a song to just
to get into it. Yeah.
understand what's happening
Mm-hmm.
as much as you can, and then so it's in the right position.
Oh, yeah.
This song too. Yeah. Is there any message? I have not read lyrics,
Yeah.
so I'm still at the point where you're like a foreign, like you're singing in another language
Right.
to me, which I love to do because then I can focus on the vocalist and the craft of singing
Totally. Yeah, and like the energy
without
and
my
emotion.
brain processing what do
Words.
these words mean.
That's interesting.
And your singing is, you don't have perfect clarity because you're for the words, right?
Yeah.
Right? Is that deliberate?
It is, because I have a classical background, there's such an emphasis on diction.
Mm-hmm.
And a part of like writing my own music and singing in this sort of a hybrid style is me doing it the way I want.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like, I'd like people, if they listen carefully, to be able to understand the words, but I don't want it to be like so perfectly like enunciated in the way of classical music, which you have to like project those consonants across
Interesting.
the concert hall. But
So a little more jazz.
yeah,
Yeah. Is there a message in the lyrics?
um,
Is there anything that you're saying to people outside of the music
I think
or
it's
inside? But what I
yeah,
mean.
I think it's more an expression of disorientation in different ways and kind of in different little stories. But there's no one clear message. It's just sort of lost in feelings and time and memories and fears.
Is that a response to what's happening in the world today?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think for sure. Because who knows what's happening in the world
Nobody.
now? Yeah.
Yeah. If they do, look out.
If they do,
Yeah.
then pay them and ask them.
No, to get away.
Get away.
Quickly, because this is way too confusing. That's my thought.
Right, I hear
Huh.
you.
Who are some vocalists? For me, like people like Portishead come to mind for some reason.
I've heard
You
that
know?
before. Yeah.
Are there vocalists and bands that kind of do something similar to what you do? That
I'm not sure. I mean, there are vocalists that I greatly admire. Like, for instance, I love Alison Krauss. But I don't think that like this at all emulates her vibe. Or I
Right.
don't think I sound like her as a vocalist, nor do I nor do I want to. It's just a very different style, but I love her. I have that same feeling about Ella Fitzgerald. It's a huge, I mean, who doesn't, but
Nina Simone.
yeah, I love Nina Simone too.
Do you listen to any heavy metal?
No.
No.
Never. But screaming as an art really fascinates me.
Okay.
Do you?
Well, I have a son who is very much into metal.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and he balances metal with Japanese punk and penderecki. So
Wow.
he's pointed out to me the influence that classical music has had. I mean, I don't want to speak for him, but I'm gonna have to. My interpretation of what he's saying is that heavy metal is basically a form of classical music.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
In what way?
That's where he lost me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have
But
to check it out.
I do see parallels, right? There's a complexity
Yeah.
to the compositions,
Hmm.
and there is most certainly disorientation.
Oh, okay, cool.
That's why I asked the question.
Yeah. No, I definitely want to check it out more now after this. Yeah.
There I've been to a couple shows. It's fun. It's actually
So he's in a band, or he's just he's like a
no.
lover of
He
the
plays
genre?
he plays and records. In his room or in the basement, kind of a vibe.
That's like the
he's-
right vibe though for like starting out in metal, no? Or in anything, right?
I guess I thought it was kind of just him, but he's very. Actually, I think his generation. So there's a whole generation of people who have had YouTube their entire life. So there's a different kind of process going on for people now, where they're sifting through all of history
Yeah.
while they're in their room, and then trying to make sense and context. First, finding out what it is that they like the most. Right? and then finding out what the real story is and the context is behind it. But they're
Right.
doing it themselves. They don't really come out and ask other people
Totally.
how this all fits together.
Yeah.
It's like the Matrix almost. They're kind of piecing everything together, and
Yeah.
it becomes and it's elevated. It's much more complex than hearing the Beatles and going, "Well, I love that, Dad. Can you take me to a show?" You know,
Right, yeah.
it's very complex.
Hmm.
But I brought up metal because it seems like your music is of complexity that we don't always see.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I think some people respond to that, and other people, I'm sure, like, maybe don't know how to contextualize it. And I'm kind of okay with that because there's so much music that's written in a way that people know that I think it's also okay. There's music that's different than that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's most necessary.
Yeah. And
It's like traveling to another town, right?
yeah, experience something new.
Go to another place, be disoriented, run through the airport, be
Right.
confused.
No, not run through the airport.
Don't
though.
run through the airport?
No, it's not a good feeling. We
See, I was
talked
gonna try
about
that.
it.
Yeah. But isn't it disorienting?
It is.
I mean,
I'm sure it is that feeling of panic,
yeah.
disorienting indeed.
So what's next for you? What's your daily life?
Yeah.
At this point.
Well, so I also do a lot of film scoring. That's like another passion of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying to just work more in that field. I'm also writing songs for the next album.
Okay.
May as well keep the
your
momentum
time.
going. Take your time. I took my time with this one.
Good.
But yeah, I'm just, I'm writing a lot of music, whether it's film scores or music for myself or more like classical concert music.
So who would you write film scores for? Like what's
Well,
for people
I
who are
mean-
watching who don't? I mean, every musician whose records we've released on Rope-a-Dope always has another gig, another
Another
way to
thing.
make revenue. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people think it's like you're either selling concert tickets or your record hit number one,
Right.
but there are many other things. So
Many
if you could
things in
explain
between.
how does that come about? How do you?
Well, first of all, I think, film scoring is still very much related to composition. I mean, that is what it is. So it's not like I have one project where I'm a singer and then another project where I'm like a, full-time surfer or whatever. However cool that would be. But it would be like it would
my
be
dream.
like different skills, right. Is that what you do?
I'm
Okay.
just about a full-time surfer.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, that is not me. So I'm just saying, like, I have like different worlds that I'm a part of, but they're all unified under music and music composition.
Mhm.
And even this kind of stuff, like, I hope to get a sync license for it. Just like,
Mhm.
there's no reason it can't all be together.
But break it down so that when you put a song out on a record, of course you would take that song and then present it to filmmakers, music supervisors, the people who are picking the songs to go in a show or a movie. That's decidedly different than someone coming to you and saying, "Here's the script.
Of course.
Write me a score."
Yes.
How
for
did you
sure.
learn how to do that?
Well,
And why would you do one over the other? Or I guess not. You'd just do both, right?
yeah, it's, I think, trying to get the name out and
Mhm.
write as much music as possible. But yeah, it's of course very different because the music on the album is what I want. I can make all the decisions.
there
I
it
choose
is.
the aesthetic.
Right.
If I'm working for a director, obviously I'm working for somebody else to make their vision come true.
What do they give you? They say, "This is, read the script and tell me what comes out," or "Here's the script. We're looking for something mid-tempo with a little bit of mood."
Yeah, usually more like that. Or I'm a big fan of musical examples, just because
Okay.
like what might be like tragic to you might just be really beautiful sounding to me. So if you say you want a tragic piece, I'm just gonna ask you for like 2 or 3 songs
Right.
that have that vibe, so that I can like understand on a musical level what you're feeling, like what that emotion is in music.
So you're understanding that people are going to see things and hear things in a different way. And
For sure, yeah. And words are
describe
like
things in a
not the best thing to
They're pretty
to
awkward.
use. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Words are definitely.
So awkward.
It's like such a primitive form of communication to have a thought, translate it, say it,
Right.
have a person hear it, translate it, and come back to a thought and see if that thought is exactly understood and the same.
Right.
Yeah, it is awkward. But the process for, if we were to take, and we list your songs for music supervisors, the process is pretty similar after it's recorded to place a song from your record. I can say, here's a great record, listen to this, do you have anything for it? But what I prefer is they say, here's some scenes that we're working on, or some shows that we're working on, and this scene is like this, and this scene is like this. And then I rifle through the catalog and say, you know what, Kat Vokes, Willow would be perfect for that, and submit that. So similar process.
Yeah.
We've kind of gone down the train line to a different,
train line.
music business subject. Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to say about Clockwork and to the viewing public?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, it's my music, it's my baby. I'm proud of it. I'm so grateful to the band that like made this dream come true, and I hope you the listening public check it out.
It's super simple now. You just queue it up on Spotify,
Exactly.
add it to your library,
Yeah.
and then a whole interesting world will open up, because the computer will then start to bring in more music of similar style and bring it back. So I want to thank you
Yeah, thank
for
you so much.
making this and for coming down and visiting us.
Thank you. Thanks.
More whiskey.
All right.